The story of King Henry VIII. A long time ago, in the year 1491, a boy named Henry was born in England. He was a prince, the second son of King Henry VII and Queen Elizabeth of York. Young Henry grew up in a big palace with his brothers and sisters. He loved music, sports, and learning. Everyone said he was smart and strong. When Henry was a boy, he didn't expect to become king. His older brother, Arthur, was going to be king one day. But when Henry was just 11 years old, Arthur died. This made Henry the next in line for the throne. His life changed forever. In 1509, when Henry was 17 years old, his father died. Henry became the new king of England. The people of England were very excited because Henry was young, handsome, and full of energy. They thought he would be a great king. Henry VIII is one of the most famous kings in history. He ruled England for 38 years, from 1509 to 1547. During his reign, many big and important things happened, but Henry is most famous for having 6 wives. Henry wanted to have a son to be the next king after him. This was very important to him. Let's learn about his 6 wives and what happened to each of them. Henry's first wife was Catherine of Aragon. She was from Spain and had been married to Henry's brother, Arthur, before he died. Henry and Catherine were married for many years. They had one daughter, Mary, but no sons. Henry was very unhappy because he wanted a son. He asked the Pope, the leader of the church, for a divorce. The Pope said no. This made Henry very angry, and he decided to make a big change. Henry fell in love with a lady named Anne Boleyn. He broke away from the Catholic Church and started a new church called the Church of England. Now, he was in charge of the church in his country. This allowed him to divorce Catherine and marry Anne. Anne gave Henry another daughter, Elizabeth, but no sons. Henry became angry with Anne, and she was executed. Soon after, Henry married Jane Seymour. Jane was quiet and kind. She gave Henry the son he always wanted. His name was Edward. Sadly, Jane died soon after Edward was born. Henry was very sad because he loved Jane the most out of all his wives. Henry's 4th wife was Anne of Cleves. This marriage was arranged, meaning it was planned by others. Henry saw her portrait and thought she was beautiful, but when they met in person, he didn't like her. They were married for only a short time before they divorced. Next, Henry married a young woman named Catherine Howard. At first, Henry was happy with her, but he later found out she had been unfaithful. Catherine was executed, just like Anne Boleyn. Henry's last wife was Catherine Parr. She was kind and took good care of Henry, who was old and sick by this time. She stayed with him until he died in 1547. Henry VIII did more than marry 6 wives. He also made big changes in England. One of the biggest changes was creating the Church of England. Before Henry, Most people in England were Catholic and followed the Pope. But Henry wanted to be in charge of the church, so he broke away from the Catholic Church. This was called the English Reformation. Henry also loved building things. He built grand palaces and strong warships for England's navy. One of his ships, called the Mary Rose, was one of the most famous ships of his time. Henry was known for being strong and athletic when he was young. He loved hunting, jousting, and playing tennis. But as he got older, he became sick and couldn't move as easily. By the end of his life, he was very large and had to be carried around. Even though Henry wanted a son to be king, it was his daughters who became the most famous rulers of England. Edward VI, his son, became king when Henry died, but Edward was young and sickly. He only ruled for 6 years before he died. Mary I, Henry's daughter with Catherine of Aragon, became queen after Edward. She was Catholic and tried to bring England back to the Catholic Church. She was called Bloody Mary because of the harsh punishments she gave to people who didn't agree with her. Elizabeth I, Henry's daughter with Anne Boleyn, became queen after Mary. She ruled for 45 years and is one of the most famous queens in history. Her time as queen is called the Elizabethan era, and it was a time of great art, music, and exploration. Henry VIII is remembered as a powerful and complicated king. He made big changes to England and is famous for his 6 wives. Some people see him as a strong and determined leader, while others see him as selfish and cruel. His story teaches us about love, power, and the choices leaders make. Even though Henry died long ago, his life and reign are still studied and remembered today.